Algebra 1. This is test number 6. Got through section 2.5. We did the distributive property this week. Number 1 says the product of two negative numbers is always positive. A, always positive. For every real number x, y, and z, the statement x minus y times z is equal to x times z minus y times z. Okay, what's going on is it's distributing. That's all that's happening. X times z minus y times z. That's always true. 3, simplify the expression. Negative 4.3 minus a negative 4.4 plus 4.6. Minus the negative means to add. So when you put these two together, you get 0.1. 0.1 plus 4.6 is 4.7. 4 says the absolute value of 14 minus 13 is the absolute value of 1. This means how far away is it from 0, so there'll never be a negative number. 1 is the correct answer. 5 says 5.4 minus 5.4. Notice that's the same number minus itself. It cancels it out. You can eliminate that part of the problem right away. Minus or negative 5.73 plus 2.7 minus 4.18. When you put those two together, negative 5.73 plus 2.7, you get negative 3.03. And when you combine those two, minus 4.18, you get negative 7.21. 6 says to multiply, since it's next to the parentheses, 0.7 times negative 8.1. 7 times 1 is 7. 7 times 8 we know is 56. But then just count how many times you move the decimal. You move it once for the negative 0.7 and once for the negative 8.1. That's 2 times you move it. So when you have 567, move it over 2 spots, once, twice, and that's how we get 5.67. 7 says negative 5 squared. Notice the difference between 7 and 8. Negative 5 is in parentheses for number 7. So you do negative 5 times negative 5, not times 2 like some people try to do, but negative 5 times negative 5, and you get positive 25. The difference between that one and 8 is it's negative 10 squared, but it's not in parentheses now. You don't include the negative. You square 10 times 10, and bring the negative down to make it a negative 100. Number 9 says 1/2 times 24m plus 24. It's like saying, what is 1/2 of 24m? So 1/2 of 24 is 12m, and 1/2 of 24 again is plus 12. And then number 10 is just it backwards with the binomial first. Negative 1 times negative 9 is a positive 9. And negative 1, change this up. Negative 1, we had a mistake. Negative 1 times negative c is plus c. So we got 9 plus c. Number 11 says evaluate negative x plus negative 4.9 when x's value is 4.5. First thing you do is plug 4.5, but notice there's a negative in front of that x or in front of that 4.5. So now you have negative 4.5 plus negative 4.9. So you add those absolute values together. 4.5 plus 4.9 is 9.4, and they're both negative, so keep the common sign negative. Evaluating the absolute value of negative x minus 2y when x is 3 and y is negative 4. So you have negative and then x's value 3. Minus 2 times y's value is negative 4 inside the absolute value symbols. Once you have those substituted in, negative 1 times 3 is negative 3, and negative 2 times negative 4 is positive 8. So negative 3 plus 8 is the absolute value of 5, which is how far is it from 0? And it's 5 away from 0. 13, write an algebraic expression. The product, we know product means to multiply, so 4 times x. Define a variable, so just use a variable, and then write the expression. So for 13, 14, and 15, you're basically doing the same thing. You're not given a variable. So negative 4 minus a number, negative 4 minus x. Again, you can use any variable you want. The quotient, that means to divide, of 6 times a number and 4. So 6 times a number, and the quotient, it means to divide by 4. 17 says the total cost to rent a boat $16. times the number of hours it's used, write an equation to model it. C is the total cost, H is the number of hours. So here's the verbal model. The total equals the cost per hour times the hours used. Then the labels are C, goes for total, $16 per hour, and then H, they said, is the number of hours. So C equals 16 times H. 17 says write the fraction in simplest form. You have 20 over 30. The number 10 is the largest number that they share, or their greatest common factor. 10 times 2 is 20, and 10 times 3 is 30. 10 divided by 10 cancels out. 2/3 is the simplest form. 18 says write 4 times 4 times 4, 3 of them, using an exponent, so 4 to the third power. 19 says to write them in standard form, 0.82 squared in standard form. That means 0.8 times itself 2 times. We know that 8 times 8 is the number 64, and then we know we have to move the decimal over 2 spots to accommodate 0.8 and 0.8. So 64 moves over 2 spots, 0.64. 20 says 0.05 times 57. 5 times 7 is 35, and carry your 3. 5 times 5 is 25, plus 3 is 28. So you have the number 285, and then you have to move the decimal over 3 times. So you get 0.285. Let's do it like this way. 0.285. 21, you have 2/6 plus 5/10. When you're adding and subtracting fractions, they have to be the same at the denominator, or the bottom number has to be the same. So the smallest number that they go into is the number 30. So change that bottom number of both fractions to the number 30. In order to determine what number goes on the top or in the numerator, you have to ask yourself, what do I multiply 6 by to get the number 30? The answer is 5. So multiply the top number 2 by 5 as well, and you get 10. On the second fraction, ask yourself, what do I need to multiply 10 by to get 30? The answer is 3. So multiply the top number 5 by 3, and you get 15. Now you have a common denominator of 30, and you could add straight across. 10 plus 15 is 25 over 30. The number 5 is a factor of both. 5 times 5 and 5 times 6, and 5 divided by 5 cancels out to give you 5 over 6 for 21. 22, we have to do the same thing as far as transforming the denominators to be the same. 24 is the smallest number they go into. 24. So ask yourself, what do I multiply 12 by? The answer is 2. So multiply 6 by the same 2. Same thing. What do I need to multiply 8 by to get 24? 3. So multiply 1 by the same 3. So now you have 12 over 24 minus 3 over 24. Keep the same number at the bottom common. 24, and subtract 12 minus 3 to get the number 9. 9 divided by 24, 3 goes into both of those. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 8 is 24. Cancel out 3 divided by 3 to get 3 over 8. You do not have to have common denominators when you're multiplying and dividing, but you need to change division into multiplication. When you change it into multiplication, you need to flip the second fraction or use its reciprocal. So 2/3 stays the same, division becomes multiplication, and 8 over 9 becomes 9 over 8. Then you multiply straight across. 2 times 9 is 18. 3 times 8 is 24. The biggest number that goes into both of them is the number 6. 6 times 3 is 18. 6 times 4 is 24. And 6 divides by 6 to leave you with 3/4. 24 is writing as a fraction in simplest form, 0.38. The 3 is in the 10th place. The 8 is in the 100th place. So per 100 or percent, so that's just like having it as per 100. So you write it as 38 over 100. And then the number that goes into both of those is 2. 2 times 19 and 2 times 50. 2 divided by 2 cancels out to leave you in its simplest form as a fraction, 19 over 50. For number 25, it's similar. It says write 0.98 as a percent. You can note that to move decimals, just move them 2 spots to make percent. Or you can say it means per 100, just like the other one. Move it over 2 spots, it becomes 98%. 26 says a car travels 379 miles in 7 hours. Find a unit rate. And then round to the nearest tenth. Rate equals distance over time. Miles per hour is your speed. That's how you can remember that one. So in place of D, substitute in 379 miles. That's your distance. In place of T, substitute in 7 hours. That's your time. So that says 379 divided by 7 comes out to be 54.14. And there's some other numbers that follow behind that, miles per hour. But it says to round to the nearest tenth. So that's the number that's right after the decimal, that 1. You look to the number behind that, the 4. If it was 5 or larger, you would round 1 up to 2, but it's not, so it stays as 54.1 miles per hour. 27 says evaluate u plus xy when u's 14, x is 3, and y is 10. In place of u, plug in 14. In place of x, in place of u, plug in 14. In place of x, plug in 3. In place of y, plug in 10. So that's just substituting in given values. Then you know you need to multiply before you add. So 3 times 10 is 30. That's order of operations tells you to do that. And then 30 plus 14 is 44. Again, order of operations when you add them. 28 says evaluate AB squared. A's value is 4, B's value is 3. Substitute in place of A, 4, in place of B, 3. 4 times, that's your given values. Multiply 4 times 3 to get the number 12, because it's inside parentheses. That's why you do it before exponents. And then evaluate the exponents. That means 12 times 12, which is 144. 29, use the formula to convert Fahrenheit into Celsius. 5 over 9 times F minus 32. First thing you do is in place of F, substitute in 80 degrees Fahrenheit. So what you have is 80 minus 32. That's just a given value. Do its inside parentheses first. 80 minus 32 is 52. Then you have 5 over 9 right next to 52. That means to multiply it. Multiply straight across. 5 times 52 is 260. 9 times 1 is 9. And then simplify that by dividing 260 by 9 to get 28.8. It says round to the nearest tenth. So that means you only want 1 digit after the decimal. That 8 either has to round up or stay the same. The 8 that's on the right of it, since it's 5 or greater, tells you to round up. The Celsius degrees, 28.9 degrees Celsius. 30 says a mountain climber ascends a mountain peak. That means he's going up. The peak is 10,570 feet above sea level. The climber then descends. That means he's going down 400 feet to meet a fellow climber. Find the climber's elevation above sea level after meeting the other climber. So he goes up all the way to 10,570 and he comes back down minus 400. So they're at 10,170 feet. 31 says the temperature of a summer afternoon, 72 degrees Fahrenheit. Define a variable and write an expression to find the temperature after it changes. 72 plus an unknown value. It says evaluate your expression for a decrease. That means it's going down of 13 degrees, so minus 13. So the temperature at that point would be 59 degrees. Evaluate B minus 2A minus C when A's value is negative 8, B's 4, and C's negative 6. Substitute in all of the values for B, A, and C. Notice they're not in the same order, A, B, C. Once you substitute them in, multiply negative 2 times negative 8. That's positive 16. That tells you, and negative 1 times negative 6 to get positive 6. That's multiplication. Then combine all your like terms. 4 plus 16 is 20, plus 6 is 26. That's adding just because of order of operations. 33 says you made 2 deposits. One of them was 1861. The other one was 1553. And your balance at the end of the month was 7231 with no withdrawals. That means you didn't take any money out. So it says write and evaluate an expression for your balance at the beginning of the month. So your balance at the beginning of the month would be X plus 1861 plus 1553 equals 7231. When you add 1861 and 1553 together, you get 3414. So it's saying what plus 3414 gives you 7231. And your balance at the beginning of the month is $38.17. 34 says use the distributive property. There's only one term you're multiplying by, so you might wonder, why do I have to use the distributive property? Because it's the number 599. That's one number away from 600. So multiply 8 times 600 and 8 times -1. 600 minus 1 is the same thing as 599. We know that 8 times 6 is the number 48. So we get 4,800, and we know 8 times 1 is -8. So 4,800 minus 8 is 4,792. Then it says use the distributive property for 8 CDs that cost $14.99 a piece. Again, instead of multiplying 8 times $14.99, 8 times 15 minus 1, or minus 1 cent. So $15, 8 times 15 is the number 120. And we actually have to change this real quick. I made a mistake when I was doing it quickly earlier. It is 120. You can leave that number, but it's not times 1, because it's not taking off $1 for each of them. It's times 0.01, because that represents 1 cent. So it's minus 0.08. So $120 minus 8 cents. So that would be $119.92.